For nearly 30 years, Marco Pantani's Alpe d'Huez record wasn't just a time. It was untouchable, a line the sport refused to believe any rider could cross. Then Tadej Pogačar crossed it in 35 minutes and 26 seconds. And suddenly the question wasn't whether he'd broken a record, it was whether cycling had just witnessed the single greatest climb in Tour de France history. Not everyone agrees. The climb covers 13.8 kilometers of asphalt at an average gradient of 8%, serving as a brutal psychological pressure cooker. 21 legendary hairpin switchbacks snake up the mountain, carving out a giant natural amphitheater. On race day, hundreds of thousands of screaming fans pack these narrow turns, transforming the Alpine Pass into a chaotic, claustrophobic stadium of noise and heat. Spectators press directly against the competitors, forcing riders to battle through a wall of pure human energy. This iconic summit serves as both a coronation stage and an unforgiving physical test. Long before the stopwatch delivers a final time, the mountain itself passes judgment, deciding who will be immortalized as a legend and who will be broken by the climb. On July 19, 1997, one rider defined the modern limits of this mountain. Marco Pantani, the enigmatic bandana-clad Italian known as Il Pirata, broke away alone. He stopped the manual watches at 37 minutes and 35 seconds. For nearly 3 decades, that number stood as cycling's ultimate monument. The run was far more than a fast ride. It became a sacred boundary. Pantani rode with a fierce, visible suffering that captured the sport's imagination, convincing fans that his performance was physically untouchable. To challenge his legacy meant confronting more than a stopwatch. It meant fighting a myth shaped by a different era of rougher roads, heavier equipment, and raw, unscientific racing. Anyone trying to rewrite history on these 21 hairpins would first have to face the ghost of 1997. Before the start of the 2026 Tour de France, Tadej Pogačar was already racing against history. The Slovenian had rewritten the rules of professional cycling, replacing defensive racing with raw audacity. He already owned multiple Tour de France titles, a Giro d'Italia crown, and victories across cycling's most prestigious one-day monuments. While other riders specialized, Pogačar destroyed boundaries, winning on cobbled roads, flat time trials, and high-altitude peaks. His identity was defined by a calm willingness to gamble everything on aggressive, long-range attacks. He routinely launched solo moves dozens of kilometers from the finish line, daring the entire field to chase him down. The peloton expected greatness from him on any terrain, but they expected it within the known boundaries of human performance. No one anticipated what would happen when this aggressive engine met the 21 hairpins of Alpe d'Huez. Would he simply defend his yellow jersey, or was he preparing to dismantle a nearly 30-year-old myth? A sudden viral outbreak had swept through the team hotel, turning the sport's wealthiest squad into a medical ward. Brandon McNulty had already abandoned the race the previous afternoon. Adam Yates, Pogačar's key climbing lieutenant, was fighting a severe stomach infection, his status uncertain right up to the start line. Up ahead, a volatile 42-rider breakaway, including mountain specialists like Richard Carapaz, had escaped, putting massive tactical pressure on a depleted leader. Pogačar was isolated, his defensive shield gone before the road even pointed upward. It looked like a day for damage control, not historical bids. Why would a leader with everything to lose risk it all when his army had fallen? At the foot of Alpe d'Huez, the gap to the breakaway stands at 3 minutes and 25 seconds. Tadej Pogačar is completely isolated, but instead of riding defensively, he chooses absolute offense. With 12 kilometers left of the climb, the yellow jersey explodes out of the saddle. He launches a devastating solo acceleration that leaves the main contenders frozen on the tarmac. He begins slicing through the remnants of the breakaway, using his rivals as mere milestones on the mountain. He storms past Sepp Kuss, who is quickly distanced and will ultimately finish more than a minute behind. Up ahead, Richard Carapaz and Lenny Martinez fight to stay clear, but Pogačar hunts them down, bridging the remaining gap completely alone. With just 1.5 kilometers remaining, he catches the leading duo on the steep upper slopes, matching their pace before gritting his teeth for the final, brutal surge. He tears through the final kilometer under a wall of screaming fans, crossing the line to take a historic stage victory. When the official transponder timing is verified, the cycling world stands in absolute disbelief. 35 minutes, 26 seconds. Tadej Pogačar has shattered Marco Pantani's legendary record by more than 2 full minutes, rewriting what is humanly possible on Alpe d'Huez. But how did he unlock this level of performance? To sustain this speed, a rider's body functions as an elite metabolic engine. Think of sprinting up a steep incline while carrying a heavy pack, yet breathing with the controlled rhythm of an Olympic marathoner. After 19 days of brutal racing, the human body is essentially running on empty, its fuel stores drained and muscles damaged. At high altitude, where oxygen is scarce and the heat radiates off the asphalt, the heart must pump blood with extreme force just to keep the muscles from seizing with lactic acid. This effort surpasses typical cycling. It pushes into the physical territory of an Ironman triathlon or a continuous Olympic rowing final. Every pedal stroke requires absolute mental focus to override the brain's natural self-defense system, which screams at the body to slow down. To overcome these severe recovery limits is to defy basic human survival mechanics. But erasing a legend on paper is not the same as eclipsing them on the mountain. Skeptics rightly point out that comparing 1997 to 2026 is an imperfect science. While the physical 13.8-kilometer climb is identical, the variables are not. Pogačar rode on freshly resurfaced, low-resistance asphalt, using high-tech carbon bikes and advanced nutrition like exogenous lactate gels. Even the timing has evolved, replacing the manual stopwatches of Pantani's era with hyper-precise GPS transponders. Pogačar's run is a modern physiological marvel, but it was achieved in a completely different technological reality. By dismantling the most sacred record on Alpe d'Huez, Tadej Pogačar forced historians to rewrite the hierarchy of the sport. Cycling judges its ultimate legends, Merckx, Hinault, Anquetil, Indurain, and Coppi, not by victories alone, but by dominance, versatility, and defining moments of theatre. This ride made those historical comparisons immediate rather than academic. For outside observers, it felt like Usain Bolt lowering his own 100-meter world record while running into a headwind. It was the moment a contemporary star officially stepped out of his own era and into immortality. This historical leap relies on UAE Team Emirates' highly engineered performance network. The team backs Pogačar with massive investments in wind tunnel aerodynamics, custom carbon frames, high-altitude camps, and real-time metabolic data. Yet the wider Tour battlefield remains active. Beyond Alpe d'Huez, immediate stakes loom: a razor-thin King of the Mountains duel with Richard Carapaz, young Isaac Del Toro's podium pressure, and chaotic, safety-threatening crowds. Stage 20 waits tomorrow, with Jonas Vingegaard and Remco Evenepoel preparing to disrupt this budding dynasty. The mountain record is broken, but the war for cycling's future has only just begun. We are no longer comparing modern champions to past legends. As sports science pushes human performance to unthinkable heights, the question is whether any physical limit remains. Cycling's future has arrived, and history is being rewritten in real time. What do you think? Let us know in the comments.